I'm TGK Andre. First, let's take a quick look at the top stories this evening. Democrats threaten lawsuits over firings, back pay warnings as shutdown hits day 14. State Department advisor accused of hoarding classified files, meeting Chinese officials. Major media outlets reject Pentagon's new access rules, evictions threatened. The Supreme Court rejects Alex Jones's appeal in the $1.4 billion Sandy Hook defamation case. And major airports refuse to air DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's message on the shutdown. And now, to the news. Congressional Democrats of Maryland and Virginia have said they will sue the Trump administration over planned reductions in force and signals that furloughed federal workers might not receive back pay as the government shutdown entered its 14th day. The White House has leaned on personnel actions to pressure Senate Democrats to help reopen the government. Late last month, on an OMB memo, flagged potential layoffs, and on day 10, OMB Director Russ Vought wrote on X the RIFs had begun. Senator Chris Van Hollen called the firings illegal, citing a 2019 law that guarantees back pay for furloughed workers after a shutdown ends. Senator Mark Warner also criticized the back pay threat. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated roughly 750,000 federal employees could be furloughed, with back pay costs around $400 million per day. Rob Shriver of Democracy Forward said an emergency motion was filed to halt the layoffs, with the hearing set for Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Senate planned another vote Tuesday night on the House's GOP short-term funding bill, which Democrats have blocked 7 times. Democrats want a firm agreement to extend expiring Affordable Care Act premium subsidies before open enrollment begins November 1st. Republicans say negotiations should occur only after the government reopens. A Justice Department affidavit alleges Ashley Tellis, an unpaid senior advisor to the State Department and a contract with the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment, unlawfully retained national defense information and removed classified documents from secure locations. Tellis, a subject matter expert on India and South Asia, who has worked with the State Department since 2001, held the top secret clearance, and also served as a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Investigators searching his Vienna, Virginia home recovered more than 1,000 pages marked top secret and secret, according to court documents. Prosecutors say Tellis had a coworker print multiple classified documents for him on September 12th, and on September 25th, printed U.S. Air Force materials regarding military aircraft capabilities. The affidavit further alleges Tellis met several times with Chinese government officials in recent years. In September 2022, he was observed meeting them at a Virginia restaurant while carrying a manila envelope. During an April 11, 2023 meeting, participants were overheard discussing Iranian-Chinese relations and emerging technologies. Prosecutors also say Tellis received a gift bag during a September 2nd dinner with Chinese officials. He is accused of unlawful retention of national defense information. The filing does not detail a plea. A broad coalition of national news organizations is refusing to sign the Pentagon's new reporting rules, which require journalists to acknowledge restrictions or risk losing workspace access as soon as Wednesday. Only a small conservative channel has said it will comply. The Defense Department says the policy sets common sense media procedures and wants signed acknowledgments even from outlets that disagree. Newsrooms argued the rules would bar reporting not pre-approved by officials and threaten core press freedoms. One leading wire service said the policy undermines the First Amendment and sets limits public access to information. Several outlets that declined the rules said they will continue covering the military from outside the building. The Pentagon Press Corps Association called the move one-sided and questions its necessity. With neither side signaling a compromise, the clash appears headed for court. Since the new leadership took office, formal briefings have been rare, movement inside the building has been tightened, and some reporters have been moved from long-standing workspaces. Watch this.
News. CBS News and other broadcast networks released a joint statement a short time ago saying, quote here, "Today we join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements, which would restrict journalists' ability to keep the nation and the world informed of important national security issues. The policy is without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections. We will continue to cover the U.S. military as each of our organizations has done for many decades, upholding the principles of a free and independent press." The networks join other news outlets in this, including the New York Times, Associated Press, Reuters, and the Washington Post, as well as Newsmax Television Network, which have also refused to agree to this new policy. Those rules, which Secretary Hegseth described this afternoon at the White House as common sense, requires journalists to have all information approved by the Pentagon before it is publicly released, even if that information is unclassified. Members of the media must also wear a visible press badge at all times. Reporters face a 5 p.m. deadline today to sign those new rules, or they will be required to turn in their credentials tomorrow. And Hegseth there also saying, quote, Pentagon access is a privilege, not a right.
A Pennsylvania man pleaded guilty Tuesday to charges stemming from an April arson at Governor Josh Shapiro's official residence in Harrisburg. Cody Balmer, 36 years old, admitted in Dauphin County Court to attempted murder, aggravated arson, burglary, terrorism, and related offenses. The fire was set around 2 a.m. on April 13th when the governor and his family were asleep following the first night of Passover. According to investigators, Balmer called 911 after the blaze and said he set the fire because of what he believed the governor wants to do to the Palestinian people. Authorities said Balmer also admitted he harbored hatred toward Shapiro and indicated he planned to attack the governor with a hammer if he encountered him inside. Shapiro, speaking after the plea, urged real accountability for acts of political violence and cautioned the public not to become numb to such incidents. He thanked first responders and said his family continues to grapple with the aftermath of the attack, noting they have learned and leaned on their faith during recovery. Details on sentencing were not immediately available. The governor's office said the case underscores broader security concerns for public officials as the shutdown of routine government services continues to strain resources statewide. Watch this.
The U.S. Supreme Court rejected an appeal from conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. The conservative commentator was trying to dodge a $1.4 billion payout to the families of the victims killed in the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Jones repeatedly claimed the mass shooting that killed 20 first graders and 6 teachers in Connecticut was a hoax staged by crisis actors. The family sued for defamation and emotional distress. He has since acknowledged that the shooting did happen.
The news will be back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Angels of healing are operating right now. Angels of God moving around. And the healing grace and power of Jesus Christ
The surge of power.
is surging through your home right now.
Are you ready for this testimony?
This October, get yourself ready because a miracle
Moments of power.
is about to happen with you.
Welcome back. Several major U.S. airports are refusing to play a Department of Homeland Security video featuring Secretary Kristi Noem, who blamed Democrats in Congress for the ongoing government shutdown that has caused widespread flight delays. Airports in Las Vegas, Phoenix, Seattle, Portland, Charlotte, and Cleveland, as well as 3 in New York, declined to show the 37-second message. In the video, Secretary Noem stated that Democrats in Congress refused to fund the federal government, forcing critical operations to run without pay for many federal workers, including most Transportation Security Administration employees. Some airport officials cited concerns about partisanship, with Portland's airport claiming the message could violate the Hatch Act, an Oregon state law that prohibits political activity by government workers. SeaTac Airport said it supports bipartisan efforts to end the shutdown while standing with unpaid staff. The shutdown, which began October 1st after Congress failed to pass a spending bill, has left roughly 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 TSA officers working without pay. A partial paycheck is expected for work completed before the shutdown began. Republicans have accused Democrats of refusing to negotiate in good faith, while Democrats have shifted blame towards Republican leadership. President Donald Trump has urged Congress to approve a funding package that prioritizes border security and protects essential government operations. Let's take a look.
We will continue to do all that we can to avoid delays that will impact your travel. And our hope is that Democrats will soon recognize the importance of opening the government.
New tonight, the Port of Seattle now joining Portland's airport in its refusal to air this video at TSA checkpoints. In the video, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem blames Democrats for the ongoing government shutdown, which has impacted airport operations and TSA pay. In a statement, a Port of Seattle spokesperson writes this: the Port of Seattle will not play the video on its screens at SCA Airport due to the political nature of the content. We continue to urge bipartisan efforts to end the government shutdown and are working to find ways to support federal employees working without pay at SCA during the shutdown.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has indicated that a sharp slowdown in hiring poses a growing risk to the U.S. economy, reinforcing expectations the central bank will cut interest rates twice more in 2025. Despite the federal shutdown interrupting some data flows, Powell said the outlook for jobs and inflation is largely unchanged from September, when the Fed delivered its first rate reduction of the year and projected 2 additional cuts. Powell told the National Association for Business Economics in Philadelphia that downside risks to employment have gained importance relative to inflation. He noted tariffs have lifted the Fed's preferred inflation gauge to 2.9%, but said there are no broader pressures suggesting price growth will remain elevated. Lower policy rates would filter into cheaper mortgages, auto loans, and business borrowing. He also signaled the Fed may soon halt the runoff of its roughly $6.6 trillion balance sheet, saying the central bank could approach that point in coming months. The Fed has been allowing about $40 billion in treasuries and mortgage-backed securities to mature each month without replacement, an approach that at the margin keeps longer-term yields higher. Defending the Fed's 2020-2021 bond purchases, Powell said the programs aim to stabilize Treasury markets and support the pandemic-stricken economy, while acknowledging that with the clarity of hindsight, the purchases could have ended sooner. He added that stopping earlier likely wouldn't have fundamentally changed the inflation trajectory that emerged in late 2021. General Motors said Tuesday it will record a $1.6 billion charge in the third quarter as it overhauls its electric vehicle strategy, citing a changed regulatory landscape and softer demand after the federal $7,500 EV tax credit ended. The company said it now expects EV adoption to slow and is reworking production plans. GM said the charge reflects lower than planned EV volumes and includes a roughly $1.2 billion non-cash impairment tied to EV capacity adjustments and about $400 million in contract cancellation fees and commercial settlements. The automaker plans to report third quarter results early next week. Broader policy shifts are also weighing on results. GM estimated tariffs and related trade actions will reduce 2025 earnings by $4 billion to $5 billion, following a $1.1 billion impact in the prior quarter. The company said it aims to offset at least 30% of this year's tariff headwinds. Analysts' reactions were muted. CFRA research said the move was unsurprising given market conditions and suggested manufacturers that lean more heavily into hybrids could benefit in the U.S. GM shares edged higher in morning trading Tuesday after the announcement. The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
It's easy to set up, quick to start, and packed with value. Smarter streaming starts here with the Alpha TV Stick. Just plug and stream anytime, anywhere. Discover a curated lineup of content designed to inspire, live broadcasts and global events, inspirational films and series, children's programming, healing and teaching sessions, all on demand.
With millions of downloads worldwide, the Alpha TV app is transforming lives across the globe. And now, we're on a mission to reach 1 billion downloads of the Alpha TV app, and you can be part of it. Join the global wave with 1 billion Alpha TV app downloads worldwide. Bring the higher life into every home. Order your Alpha TV Stick today and experience smarter streaming. Alpha, the higher life is here.
Welcome back. Madagascar's military announced it has taken control of the government after the National Assembly voted to impeach President Andry Rajoelina, who fled the country amid weeks of youth-led protests and defections within the security forces. Colonel Michael Randriarina, the mutiny leader from the elite CAPSAT unit, said the army was dissolving state institutions except the lower house and would lead a transitional authority for up to 2 years before new elections. The military statement said the Senate, High Constitutional Court, Election Commission, and several other bodies were suspended. Earlier Tuesday, Rajoelina attempted by decree to dissolve the National Assembly, but lawmakers proceeded with impeachment, creating a constitutional standoff the army sided in asserting control. Rajoelina, who first rose to power in the 2009 coup, condemned the takeover and said he moved to a safe place after threats to his life. Protests that began September 25th over power and water shortages broadened into anger over corruption, governance, and living costs, drawing large crowds in Antananarivo and across the country. Over the weekend, CAPSAT refused to fire on demonstrators and moved to replace the army chief, and the gendarmerie and police later broke with president as well. Madagascar, a nation of about 30 million with 3/4 of its people living in poverty, has been mired in economic strain. World Bank data shows per capita GDP fell 45% from 1960 to 2020. Some protesters celebrated the army's move, while others urged a rapid handover to a civilian administration and prompt elections. Let's take a look.
Madagascar's military has taken charge of the government, an army colonel said on Tuesday, after President Ange Rajoelina fled abroad during a standoff with youth-led protesters and security forces. Colonel Mikhail Randrianirina of the CAPSAT unit declared the suspension of the 2010 constitution and the formation of a transitional government. Several key institutions, including the Senate, the Constitutional Court, and the High Constitutional Court, will be suspended, while the National Assembly will remain in operation. A High Reform Court and other specialized judicial bodies will also be created for the time being before a national referendum and elections. Earlier, Rajoelina claimed a coup was underway but called on to the nation to remain calm in a video address. He was reportedly flown out by the French military plane. The unrest now is in its third week, driven by Gen Z movement and fueled by public anger over repeated power and water cuts, corruption, unemployment, and a soaring cost of living. According to UN estimates, the protests have resulted in at least 22 deaths and over 100 injuries, though the government disputes these figures. Rajoelina first came to power in 2009 after mass protests ousted then-President Marc Ravalomanana.
At least 14 people were killed when flooding caused multiple mine shafts to collapse in El Cayo, southeastern Venezuela, authorities said Monday. A command post has been established to coordinate recovery operations led by Brigadier General Gregory Gonzalez Acevedo. The deaths were reported at 3 shafts in the Cuatro Esquinas de Caratal gold mine, about 850 kilometers southeast of Caracas. Local firefighters said the toll was based on testimony from other miners, noting that heavy rains flooded the vertical shafts and triggered the collapse. Rescue crews began pumping water from the affected shafts to lower levels before evaluating entry for recovery efforts. Officials did not immediately provide details on how many people might still be trapped. El Callao, a town of roughly 30,000, depends heavily on gold mining. Venezuela's broader mining sector, including gold, copper, and diamonds, has long faced criticism for poor safety and weak regulation. Watch this.
At least 14 people have died after torrential rain led to the collapse of a gold mine in Venezuela. Authorities say the water flooded 3 vertical mine shafts, causing them to collapse. Despite the efforts of other miners, most of those inside were unable to escape. A recovery effort is now underway.
Just before we end the news, let's take a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. Democrats threaten lawsuit over firings, back pay warnings as shutdown hits day 14. State Department advisor accused of hoarding classified files, meeting Chinese officials. Major media outlets reject Pentagon's new access rules, evictions threatened. The Supreme Court rejects Alex Jones's appeal in $1.4 billion Sandy Hook defamation case. Major airports refuse to air Secretary Kristi Noem's message on shutdown. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm TTK Andre. This is Loveworld USA. Good night, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.